We're going to be doing some grafting today. This stick is called cyan wood, and these are name varieties. This one's golden russet. This one's mother or American mother. This one's called Tompkins County King, or just King. And the last one we have is called squeak. Very small apple.
They said that one is good for children, huh? Because of the size.
It's derived from a seedling of Honeycrisp, but it's a lot more flavorful than Honeycrisp.
Okay.
Right. So why don't we start with our biggest cyan wood here. This is, we usually do 2 buds. Depends on the size of your stick. I mean, with something smaller, you could do 3 buds maybe. But I usually do 2 buds. You can even do 1 bud, especially if they're spaced really far apart. But the main thing is to have something that's not too long, not too short. Alright, and then we have our rootstock here. And this is a special dwarfing rootstock. It's a Russian rootstock called Bud 9. Well, actually this one's Bud 10. It's very similar to Bud 9. Bud 10 is slightly more vigorous. And it has a very good root system. A lot of rootstocks don't have so many roots, but Bud 10 is roots very well. So, alright, so I usually graft about 6 to 8 inches above the roots on the rootstock. And I just look for an area that's relatively smooth and doesn't have any buds. And this one is big enough that I can match the size. Looks like almost a perfect match. Alright, so and when you're doing this, it's important that the roots don't dry out. With this kind of rootstock, it has so many roots that they don't dry out easily. Okay, now I'm going to make a cut. It's important to use a very sharp knife when you're doing this. So I make a cut, and then I make an equal size cut on the rootstock. I usually just mark it with my thumbnail to so I know how much to cut. And one thing about Bud 10, and also Bud 9, is that the rootstock has a slightly reddish color wood. So you can see this is the cyan wood, and that's just an interesting fact. Alright, so what we're doing is matching the cambium. The cambium is right under the bark, so the cambiums have to be matched at least on one side in order for the graft to take. So I got it matched pretty well, at least on one side. And then to bind it together and keep it together, I use grafting rubber. And I'm using this brand, they're made in Germany. But, alright, so this takes a little practice, but it's easy for the band to snap off.
Can you show slowly how they tie it when you're tucking the end?
Yeah. So I'm just wrapping this around, and this band is...
Just wrap it around your finger. sort of like when you're tying a balloon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to cover the whole thing. All right. And then I usually just cut the top to make it smooth, and then put on some grafting seal. Grafting seal just keeps the moisture in the sand so it doesn't dry out. This could be applied with a paintbrush, but I just use my finger. It's water soluble, so it comes off easily. And I put some on here. And the thing about these grafting rubbers is that they don't deteriorate in the sun as easily as regular rubber. If you use a rubber band, it would deteriorate too fast in the sun unless it was shaded. So that graft's done. Now let's try a little different kind of grafting. We'll do the pip squeak. That's my smallest one. And I take the buds off because you don't want any growth below the graft. Just take them off with my fingernail. So again, about 6 to 8 inches above the roots. Let's find a smooth area, and we'll try pipsqueak next. See, this one has very small buds, but should work fine. So I'm doing the same thing with this, make a diagonal cut. And with this one, because the size is different, I just have to make a very small cut on this one. Just so it goes under the bark. About like that. And then it should match up. And then I put my grafting rubber on.
So where do you get your rootstock, or can you grow it yourself? Can you start it? I know you buy yours because you want dwarf trees, right?
Yes. You can grow rootstock from seed, but it will produce standard large trees that can grow anywhere from 25 to 40 feet. This dwarf rootstock only gets 8 to 10 feet, which makes it a lot easier to pick the fruit and care for the trees. You don't need big ladders in the orchard.
And where do you get it? Where can people get that kind of dwarf rootstock?
Well, you can get it from different
Nurseries?
usually wholesale nurseries, but there's some nurseries that sell small quantities, like Cummings Nursery in New York State will sell as few as 1 rootstock or 10 rootstocks, or however many you want.
And you mentioned 2 different numbers for the type of rootstock. How do people know the one they need or want? How can they tell which one to order?
Well, Bud 9 is one that's been around for years. Bud 10 came out maybe 10 years ago. I'm not sure, but it's it's still in a somewhat experimental stage, but it appears to be very similar to Bud 9, but slightly more vigorous. So,
Okay.
And it definitely has a bigger root system. So, I think the trees will establish faster.
Mm.
It's just a guess.
Okay. So you keep them on a bag with what is it? Do you have any water there, or is they wrapped with paper, wet paper, or
Well,
just the roots are moist?
they're grown in sawdust. They're rooted
Okay.
in sawdust. They're rooted in the field in sawdust
Okay.
in big fields, many acres. They grow them like a garden crop.
And that's how they ship them with some of the sawdust?
Yeah, there's some sawdust in the roots, but not a lot. But you can see if you look at it closely, there's sawdust on the roots. And the roots are moist. The roots always have to be kept moist. If they dry out, the tree will die.
Okay.
But I keep them in plastic bags because they have to be kept moist. The plastic helps keep the moisture in.
Okay. So, and the best time for doing your grafting is in the winter or early spring, or so it's not too hot?
Best time is before it gets too hot. In the spring. And it's all right for the rootstock to be growing a bit, but the scionwood has to be dormant. So if you look at this is dormant. It has no buds that are growing.
Okay.
So ideally, your scionwood is completely dormant. Okay, so we did pipsqueak. Maybe I should label them before I start. So we did pipsqueak and what was the first one we did?
The russet?
No, it was mother.
Oh, mother.
Okay, so mother is also known as American mother. It's from Massachusetts, and it's from the early 1800s. And it was actually one of my mother's favorite apples. So this is mother. Heirloom apple that has a little bit of pear drop flavor in it. It's a high quality red apple. Mostly red. Sort of shaped like a red delicious. And this is pipsqueak. I'm not sure where pipsqueak originated from, but I got my scionwood from Fedco. They sell scionwood at $6 a stick, I believe. They advertise it as one of the best tasting apples ever. So it's very crisp and juicy and has a little bit of pina colada flavor in it.
Oh, goodness.
And I'm guessing that children will like the small size because it only gets to about 1.5 inches in diameter.
And your father sells scionwood too from...
Yes, my father sells scionwood, I believe. I got my mother from him. I believe his scionwood is $5 a stick. That's
how he supports himself. He lives off grid in a log cabin, and he sells scionwood for a living. He also sells some grafting supplies, doesn't he?
Yes, he sells grafting rubbers, and he sells another kind of grafting seal that's black. It's much more water resistant than the yellow one, but I like the yellow one better because it's less messy and doesn't stick to your clothes as easily.
Does he sell the grafting knives? I think I saw it in his list.
He sells the grafting knives too. These grafting knives, I believe they retail around $60, but you can actually use a razor sharp box cutter.
Okay.
If you don't want to spend the money on this is a Tina grafting knife made in Germany. You can see
it's very good quality.
Yes.
If anyone is interested, let us know in the comments, and we can give you my father-in-law's address, how you can order from him. He only takes order by mail because he lives off-grid. No computers, no phone. And don't tell him how you find out about him selling because.
All right.
Okay.
So we'll do. How about Tom? Make sure I say this right. King of Tompkins County. Find a piece here that looks
Well,
good.
that's an interesting name.
Now Tompkins County is right near where we live. It's where Cornell University is, or near it anyway, Ithaca area. And this apple originated, I believe, in the early 1800s.
Yeah.
It was brought to New York from New Jersey, but it really took off in Tompkins County. So this was an apple that my father got from an old man who taught him how to graft. His name was George Lewis, and he had a lot of heirloom, old-fashioned varieties, but this was his favorite apple. It's a sweet apple. It ripens in early October in New York State. And it's definitely an apple that you'd like if you like a sweeter flavored apple. So this should match up pretty well, I think. So the cambium is, you can see the layer right here, right under the bark. This cyan needs to match the cambium on the, so that matches pretty good
Can I
on
see
one
it
side.
again?
Yeah.
Can you show me the cambium again?
So the cambium is, see that line? You can see a line.
The whitish line? Yeah, they look like,
There's
yeah, right on. Okay.
light and dark. The wood
Okay,
is
see
almost a pink color, whereas there's the whitish, and then there's,
Okay, I see it now.
it's right under the bark. So that's where the life of the tree is. That's where the sap flows, mostly. So.
And that's why goats can kill a tree if they eat that bark around. That's how my father-in-law too, when he needs to cut down a tree, he goes around the tree and peels off all the bark around the tree, and it dies. It's ready to be cut down.
This rootstock is very thick. It's gonna hold. Nope. Might have to do 2 bands on this one. Just gonna do another band. Finish it. That should be good. Alrighty, that's King of Tompkins County, or just known as King. Alright, and the last one we're going to do is golden russet.
My favorite. Well, one of my favorites.
Golden russet is completely covered with russet. And russet is like if you think of russet potatoes, it looks kind of like that. It's a brownish color, but it's perfectly edible. And russet apples tend to be good in a root cellar because golden russet, instead of rotting, it shrivels a bit and the sugar condenses. Golden russet is actually one of the best apples for hard cider because it has a very high sugar content, and after it stores a bit, the sugar content in the apple increases. So let's see, where's golden russet? Here we go. Okay, so these will be planted in a garden bed with lots of compost and organic matter so that they grow quickly. And then hopefully next year they'll be ready to transplant to their permanent location.
How do you know when they are ready to transplant?
Well, it's best for the tree to put on some good growth, like a foot or more. And then you would make a hole that's 3 times the size of the root system. Put lots of compost and organic matter in it to get the tree a good start. And I like to mulch with wood chips over the top of it to keep the weeds down.
Okay.
So this American Golden Russet, the last of 4 apples that we're doing today. American Golden Russet is one of the oldest apples from the United States. It's from the 1700s. Alright, so that's a little bit how to graft. I hope you learned something, and if you have any questions, you can always ask. And our website is fiatsoap.com if you want to order anything. Thank you.
That helps us.
So that's how to graft. I hope you learned something, and we support ourselves through the things we make and grow. So we have items available on our website, fiatsoap.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.